To Scorched Earth, and a general reading for the sign of Taurus, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of July. I hope you're well. I'm using Tarot of the Abyss for you today. So let's have a look and see what's going on for you. Can I have 3 cards for Taurus, please? Oh, there's the first one. We have Awakening in your recent past. That's a Judgment card in the standard deck. Current energy for Taurus, please. Let's get these properly. That's the one. What we have here, we have the 8 of Wands in your current energy. What's coming toward? Oh, hello. And we have the Knight of Swords in your what's coming towards you pile. We have the 5 of Swords at the bottom of the deck, but it's followed immediately by the World, and I like this very much for you, Taurus, because it feels like a completion of the work that you have been doing, right? At the end of a major cycle is always what we see here with the World card. And the 5 of Swords is one of the things that has been difficult for you. It talks about, for me, often, a kind of those difficult thought patterns. Like we've done a lot of work over the last 18 months, perhaps, on reframing, for a start, the arena within which your thoughts actually occur, but also kind of straightening out how you see yourself and how you think about situations, whether you internalize something or not. You know, it's been a big bringing back to self, and with this World card coming out underneath it, it feels like you are now at a point where that aspect of your life is entirely complete, which suggests that there's a new adventure coming for you. When I did the meditation before I started the reading, what I got was all change. Right? That was the phrase that came through, all change. Things are about to shift. Now, I know as fixed earth, that often puts you in a position of feeling very uncomfortable, but a lot of the work that you have done has been around the notion of release, you know, of people, situations, you know, that sort of thing, and you know, release of control, attempting to control that which is outside of you, and preferring instead to control your own reactions. I'm going to shut the window before I start turning into a shrieking fury about the traffic. And so it makes sense, if you kind of pull back and look at it from a broader perspective, that you know, the very theatre within which your thoughts occur, as it's been shifting and changing, as your perspective has adjusted accordingly, that it would be readying you for the next stage of your life, the next stage of your journey. I'm going to pull some clarifiers here before I go any further, but it feels quite profound. Both the act of completion in itself and the acceptance of the new, right? Acceptance of the change that is coming in for you, Taurus. Right, let's get some cards here. Tell me about awakening. Well, as if to prove the point, we have the 10 of Swords. Tell me about awakening, please, for Taurus. Thank you. What was that? And the Hermit. Ooh, interesting. That was the Hanged Man, by the way, that fell out to the right. I'm not going to take it, but I'm going to show you that it's there at least. Tell me about the 8 of Wands, please. They're all firing out backwards. Hang on. That's not okay. I want only jumping forwards, please. Right. Thank you. We have the King of Swords. Oh, and we have 2 here. We have the Ace of Swords and the Knight of Pentacles. Oh, I like that very much. Right. Tell me about the Knight of Swords, please. 6 of Wands. Tell me about the Knight of Swords. And Judgment. That's... Sorry, full body goosebumps there. We've got the Three of Swords at the bottom of the deck. I don't feel like this is incoming for you. I'm feeling very much that this is talking to the process of healing that you have been undergoing. What the fuck? Or we have the Knight of Swords underneath there too. But what's really striking is that we have the Judgment card appearing as the first and the last card in your reading here, right? Everything that's going on is almost... well, it's sandwiched for sure, right, by these two Judgment cards, but it's almost like the new stuff is on the other side of Judgment, and you're going into this Judgment energy, which is recent past, could be this morning, or it could be a couple of weeks ago, you know, and take it as it resonates to you. But what you are undergoing now is taking you to the world, right, as we've seen just here. Right, so you're entering Judgment, you're in the Judgment phase right now, and all the stuff that's happening in this phase is taking you to the world, right? Full completion of all of this and a readiness for the new adventure. Because this has been the healing path. Ah, that came out for you, didn't it, in the weekly readings? This has been a healing path for you. Now, this is not to say that everything in you is now healed and done and sorted, but the wisdom that you have gained on this journey means that now this is something that you don't need to discover how to do. You already know how to do this. The art from this point on is knowing when to apply it at the time, when it happens. You know, you've developed quite a skill set, Taurus, over the last 18 months. And this incredible toolkit that you have now is what you take moving forwards. It's not the pain, it's not the wounding, it's not the shadowy things that you have confronted over the 18 months that we've been, you know, talking here. The whole point of it was to allow you to look at those things, identify them, take the wisdom from that situation, and then move on, leaving behind all of the emotional attachment that went with it. So as new challenges arise for you in the future, and they will, because you're having a human experience and the whole point is to learn and all that sort of thing, right? As you navigate forwards, you now have this toolkit which you can reach into and go, this situation makes me feel this kind of way. Let me look in my toolkit and see what it is that I've learned over the last 18 months that will help me navigate this, right? To which it really feels like preparation for the new phase, right? And we like a little bit of groundwork, don't we, Taurus? It's all good. So, let me just go to the cards if I will. So, Judgment card here is absolutely beautiful. It is called Awakening. And Taurus, it really does feel like there's a lightness of spirit about you now. And what I find really fascinating about this card is that I'm not sure what the image is supposed to be, but what I'm seeing is something like an angel kind of coming out of a tree, right? Kind of lifting out of a very solid grounding here, the tree attached to the earth, as you are deeply grounded, deeply grounded to the energy of the earth, but being liberated from the difficult aspects of it. You know, you've grown wings, Taurus, and they're unfurling on your back. This is getting ready for the new thing, you know. The Judgment card can often talk about, you know, the past, can talk about a resurrection of the past, but I don't feel like that's necessary for you. I feel like you've done quite a lot of going over the past. Recently, not recently, relatively recently, in the last year or so, you know, you've been working methodically through your issues, and one by one they've been dropping by the wayside, and you take the wisdom from that experience and you put it in the toolkit and you save it for later, you know. But the broad The broader picture of what's been going on here is this very careful unfurling of wings and raising out of the tree root into a newer version of yourself. I think a lot of you trust your judgment, your own personal judgment, much, much more than you ever did before. And there's a lot of intuition in here too. We've spoken about how you're trusting your intuition more and more and more because you can identify it now, and you know that it speaks in a different voice to the one that was kind of dragging at your heels and keeping you very, just pulled back and tethered all of the time. Like, this Ten of Swords here and the Hermit speaks to that even more, because the Ten of Swords is a card of completion in and of itself. It's a difficult card, it's a difficult energy, but it's another card that speaks of completion, albeit of a minor cycle. But the fact that it's swords, and we had that Five of Swords card come out there, I think the ways in which you saw yourself as a victim before, Taurus, shifting. Your perspective has shifted quite a lot from that. The all-consuming sadness about your inability to be accepted has ended now, because you see that you did not accept yourself, right? And it always starts here with you, internally. And it's like you've elevated now to the point where if there's a situation outside of you, you go within and you look at that and you see why it is that it's making you feel difficult, why it is that it made these feelings come up in you, and what it points to as unresolved within you. These three cards together speak to me about an ease of navigating that now that you never thought that you would be able to have. There's also a very quiet strength coming through underneath it. It's like, it's okay. I know that I can weather most storms, and I know that things will be hard, and I'm not afraid of that because I know that I hold all of the answers to it. I remember years ago, the first time I came across this notion, and we are going back years now, probably 25 years or something, that every question you could possibly need an answer to, you would find those answers within. And I was like, that's ridiculous. How could that possibly be the case? But it's because of this fundamental truth that the only thing that you can control, the only thing that you can properly understand, the only thing that is worth being attached to is you. And when we are, if you want to get all philosophical about it, we don't really know that somebody else exists. This whole situation, my entire existence, might just be a figment of my own imagination. To wit, then, I have created the parameters within which my reality occurs. And as I've grown older and wiser, what's happened is those parameters have moved out and out and out and out. And so the nature of my reality has entirely changed. I see more now. I know more, but what I know is about myself. And I know if there's a situation in front of me that is making me uncomfortable, it's about going in here and working out why it makes me uncomfortable, not immediately casting the blame onto somebody else. You make me feel this kind of way. Well, no, personal responsibility. You just wait there a minute. I'm going to go over here and work out why it is that your actions are triggering this response in me, And Taurus, this is the path that I'm seeing you having taken. This is the deep spiritual understanding that I see in you now about how you exist in the world. Understanding that you are special. As special as you always hoped you were, but were afraid you weren't. It was that fear that was stopping you. And you're leaving it behind. You're growing these incredible wings and they're just spreading out in front of you. You know, you are not in front of you, behind you. Obviously, in front would be a bit weird, obscuring the view and all. You've really stepped into who you are by allowing yourself to go within and own every bit of who you are. Every bit. And you've come such a very long way in a very, very short period of time, really. And it's like your entire reality has changed because the way that you engage with it is completely different. Now, when we come into your current energy, we have the Eight of Wands. And the normal meaning of this card is communication, but as I'm looking at it, we've got this lifting, this liberation, this elevation, again implied by it, you know, you going over the top of the wands. It speaks about momentum, but it feels like change too. It feels like there are changes occurring right now for you, Taurus. I'm looking in there's a mountain in the background here and there are kind of swirls with it. And I think from the perspective that you would have had before, your vision would have stopped at the mountain. Like, there's the challenge, there's the difficulty. I need to go, you know, headbutt this mountain until it falls down and then I can walk through it. You know, what you've discovered is a new way to go about challenging situations. It's always about kind of pulling up, looking at the bigger perspective, but also going within, seeing where you are on your journey. I think you are much more tuned in to your own personal journey now than you ever were before. We've got these two cards here, these two swords cards, the King of Swords and the Ace of Swords, and they are two cards that are much more comfortable than those that you've walked away from, the Five of Swords and the Ten of Swords. You know, the King of Swords is Aquarius energy, and there is something very future facing about Aquarius energy, you know, where you might have been, you almost certainly were living in the past in some way or another at the start of this process. And refusing to release that past, and more specifically, what you felt that that past said about you, right? Trying to write a new story with an old script. That has been let go. And it's been about looking at who you are in the here and now, rather than who you think you were before, or what other people told you you were before. Your thinking is so much clearer now, Taurus. And I think there's always going to be this predisposition towards black and white with you. With Taurus, it's always like, this was a good thing, this was a bad thing. This is right, this is wrong. This is a positive thing, this is a negative thing. And to a degree, that's possibly always going to be there with you. But there is more of an understanding of the grey place now. And I think with the grey place, it's an understanding that other people project all the time about everything. And when you understand that, you stop taking things quite so personally as you did before, because you realise what's happening is people are just showing you who they are. And you can elevate above that now. Right? It doesn't bite you right in here in the way that it did before. But the clarity of thought, and even the way that you can express yourself at the moment, it's an absolute gift, but one that you have earned. Like, you've done the work. You sat there with your massive pile of swords and you've sorted through them. You go, well, this one's bullshit. Don't even know where this one came from. I'll get rid of that. This one, it's been speared right through my thigh for about 15 years. I'll just fucking pull that one out and chuck it to the side, you know. This one's had me right through the heart. That can go as well. And in this massive pile of swords, you've taken out one. And it's your own fundamental truth. Well, the King of Swords is just holding that one sword. And I like this one because the King of Swords here is not covering his own heart with it. He's got it off to the side. Some decks that I've got, King's holding the sword and he's crossing his heart like that. And this is not you. Your heart is open. There's an acceptance about you of other people. There's an open-hearted, willing to engage with other people. But there's a fucking sword there too. And if anybody fucks with you, you're just going to be like, I'm just going to run you through, you know, get out of the way. Not doing this anymore. It's like there were times in the past where people mistook your kindness for weakness. And that was incorrect. But the overinvestment, you know, the overly thoughtful, the overly kind, the overly accepting, the overly forgiving, you know, whenever we have an excess in something, it's speaking to a lack somewhere else, and it's usually in here. And with you, it was like an overcompensation. It was always seeing the gold in other people and not acknowledging it about yourself. And so when people treated you badly, you were just like, oh, okay, you know, but they're my friend, and, you know, everybody makes mistakes, that sort of thing. Like, you would never apply the same kind of metric to yourself about your own behavior, though, you know? That's all by the by now, because you still manage to be kind, you still manage to be compassionate, you still manage to make good decisions about things. But there's nothing remotely weak in the way that you're showing up, Taurus. Now, it could be that the changes that are coming in for you are ones that come by your hand. You know, the Ace of Swords can often talk about new ideas about things. But for me, the Ace of Swords is a really profound change of perspective. I know that there are other cards that speak about that, but because it's the swords, so it's the mind, right? And it's logic and reason and intellect and all of the things that are governed by your brain rather than necessarily your mind. It's about the way that you perceive the world, right? All of this information, you're battered with input, right? All day, every day, Taurus is just coming in. And it's coming in through all of your senses, the 5 traditional ones, and then, you know, a myriad others that, you know, science isn't quite up to speed with yet. And somewhere in the middle of all of that, your brain has to make sense of it all. So some of the things it will choose to completely exclude, like the nose on your face, right? You don't know about that, it's not important. Some of the information comes in upside down, like through your eyes. I mean, your eyes see everything upside down, your brain flips it and makes it the right way up. Blew my mind when I found that out. I was like, oh my God, how amazing are brains, that's incredible. And they are amazing, but they are limited in some ways too, because they are working within the parameters that, you know, your past experiences have set. Now, as you have been pushing those parameters out, as you have perhaps become a little more accustomed to paying attention to that little feeling in your gut, knowing the difference between your intuition and that nagging, horrible voice that, you know, made you overthink everything. The way that you process information is coming in very, very differently now, right? Those parameters have changed. The nature of your reality has changed. And you're looking for value above everything else now. If it doesn't bring value to your life, then you're not interested. It's not happening. If it does bring value to your life, you will absolutely commit to it 100%, and it will be, you know, precious to you. But you have a much clearer understanding of what those things are now, outside of you, because you are now holding the value of you. I know that this is what I am worth. Like, I am valid. I'm actually fucking awesome, you know? You're owning your gold. Not only are you owning your gold, you're holding up in front of you for other people to see. Hello, here are the absolute minimum standards of engagement between us now. If you don't respect the gold, you're out the way. Another card for this. I've just picked up this deck and the Judgment card is at the bottom of it too. Oh, that's nice. Pentacles. Ace of Pentacles. Ace of Swords at the bottom of the deck. I think that you're open to new adventures, Taurus, but I think for the most part, most of you are not quite sure what they are. Like, rather it is a kind of vague notion of the way that you will live your life henceforth. But I think the universe has got some surprises for you. Is there not some transit with Uranus coming up for you, Taurus? This feels like everything bedding in fully, properly, to close out the old cycle and ready you for what comes next. And what comes next might be quite surprising. We know that you like to have a plan, obviously, because this is your recipe for success, is you plan well. You know, stitch in time saves nine and all those kind of, you know, those old adages that hold true. But I think that your plans have been a little looser of late than they have been historically before. It's more like a self-possessed kind of, well, I'm just going to see what happens at this point, you know. And there's a lot of things that are up in the air in the world at the moment. It's difficult to make extensive plans about anything. But there's a certain flexibility that's come into you, Taurus, because you're holding that which needs to be stable, that which needs to be secure, which is you, inside, carrying it around with you now. So it doesn't matter if things are a bit chaotic over there, because you're comfortable. But I really do think there are some new things coming in, and they feel like they're coming in sideways for you, no? And not necessarily quite yet. What this feels like is the ground being set, everything being made sure it's in exactly the right place. All the tools in the toolkit. It's like that deep breath before you jump off something. Like, this is the energy that I've got here. Whether you jump or whether you're going to be pushed, I'm not entirely sure. But it feels like there's a huge kind of 90-degree angle that you're about to go off in. But everything that you've been doing up until this point has been to get you into that mindset, to prepare the theatre of your mind to accept what this is, rather than going, oh, no, it's change, I'm not about that. No, thank you, it makes me very uncomfortable. Which is not to say that it might not make you uncomfortable, because it does. But if you understand why it's happening, you can lean into that a little bit and embrace it, actually. So we've got what's coming towards you is the Knight of Swords. It's Gemini energy, and it's very fast moving. I can feel you breathing in deeply already. It moves at a pace that is somewhat entirely opposite to yours. But rather than feeling panicky, I feel a sense of adventure growing within you. This Knight of Swords has this sword in her hand, obviously, and you know the number of cards we have with the single sword cannot be ignored at this point, right? So you've got your sword of perception, if you will, you know, the new ways that you are seeing things. In her other hand, she has a glowing ball, and it looks a lot like the Ace of Pentacles to me, just simply because we've got it there, you know. Pentacles are always depicted in her hand. And there she's got her, fuck my life, actually, I've just realised it. Ace of Swords, Ace of Pentacles. Ace of Swords. She's got her new perception about things, and she's got new opportunities in her hand, and she's ready to move on them. Like I said, this flexibility, this ability actually to move a little faster, change direction in a way that you could not do before without it fundamentally shaking everything. You know, what she's got behind her, I tell you, she looks like a maze. And this could well be your perception of what your future is at this point, because you don't have a plan in the way that you used to have a plan. Right? The future's a maze. Like what's going to be at the end of it? What's going to be in the centre of that maze? You're not entirely sure, but you are armed with your Ace of Swords and your Ace of Pentacles, which is literally lighting the way for you. You're not doing this in the dark anymore, Taurus. You're not navigating by touch alone, or, you know, like fucking running into walls and things like that. You might not be able to see the end destination, but you can see the twists and turns in front of you. And you have your Ace of Swords. You are protected by your own mind now, instead of being attacked by your own mind. And these new opportunities are illuminating the way for you. Your ready acceptance for the new is the thing that will keep you moving forwards. It is that flexibility, right, that we're talking about coming in. Now, I'm not saying that you should always be moving towards the new, because I don't think that that's true, but it's this acceptance of the new that'll light the way forwards. Six of Wands. That's a Leo card. And it's another one that speaks about movement. You know, we go from really quite static energy cards here. I know the hermit is supposed to be going into his cave and all that sort of thing, but it is usually depicted as quite static because there is processing that needs to go on before he takes the next step, right? So we've got you here, rooted to the earth, but now starting to spread your wings, but no movement in any direction yet. We have you, you know, speared to the ground here, and then looking at that, literally looking at that static scene. And then we have, you know, the King of Swords. But we've got the movement coming in then, because there you are taking flight. Here you are on a horse. Here you are standing ready for action. Here you are on another fucking horse again. Things are going to start moving for you very, very soon, Taurus. And if it's felt like the energy has been a bit stagnant for you, a little bit like, don't really know what I'm going, where I'm going, don't really know what I'm doing, well, that's where you were supposed to be. But change is coming. Movement is coming. And the more accepting you are of that, the brighter your Ace of Pentacles, I think, there is going to shine and show you the way. And the Six of Wands is about victory. It's about success. It's about your ability to be able to face all of this new stuff head on, right? Because you are new. You've undergone the most spectacular rebirth. And whereas, say for a different sign, I know like Leo is having some very challenging energy at the moment of a similar sort of nature, but it's happening faster. You've conducted yours over this 18-month period, right? So it's like no taking shortcuts, no trying to run before you can walk. Like everything you've made sure that you've understood everything, every step along the way before you've taken the next step. Well, you've done it beautifully, Taurus. And now it's time for bold moves. In the absolute knowledge that you are protected. And possibly there might be, you know, spirit guides looking out for you. It might be your higher self. You know, may even be your own personal angels that are looking after you. But most importantly, you are looking after you now. I'm not talking about just, you know, taking bubble baths and all that sort of thing every week, although that, you know, that is nice. Self-care of that sort is important, particularly as an earth sign. You know, you've got to nurture your body, look after it. But you're not fighting yourself inside now either. Like, your mind is not trying to, it's not stabbing at your heart all the time, because I feel like that was what was happening, right? So you are protecting yourself now. And it's been the most glorious transformation, but it has been, it feels, readying you for this new point, this new adventure. And we have the Judgment card again. Now, from the way that I am reading these cards here, it looks like August is probably when all of this is going to start to really hit hard. Like, what you will, by the look of it, will be well on your way by August. But the momentum will start to build over July. You'll start to get a sense of these things coming in for you, and it's like, rather than going, oh God, am I ready for this? I'm not sure I've done enough groundwork. I'm not sure I've done enough preparation. It's like, turn to face it and accept it. So yes, I'm ready for it. I'm right here. Because you've learned discernment. You've learned to trust your judgment. We have the moon. With the Six of Pentacles and the Chariot. Holy shit. Now, you made friends with your shadow. You made friends with your internal space. You balanced it out. Like, both of these cards here specifically talk about balance. There's also usually balance depicted in the moon card, at least in the Rider-Waite. You know, we've got those two towers in the distance. We have those two, you know, we have the wolf and the dog. You know, there's a symmetry to the card. But I mean, we're also seeing it that way in the reflection of the moon. Balance, balance, balance. All of these things. Balance is incredibly important to you. An unbalanced bull is going to fall over at some point, and then you're going to have a hell of a time getting back up again, right? But it feels like you've done that in the past, and you've got up and you've found your balance now, right? Both of these cards to me talk about navigating difficult inner places, right? This is a card that speaks to me about shadow work, and you know, we've got this water here on the Chariot card, which is very rarely depicted on a Chariot card, even though Chariot card is Cancer, so it is water element. It's about emotional mastery, right? It's about knowing that you can look at that and go, oh, you know, so at some point in the past you might have gone, oh God, that looks really deep, I can't possibly get through that. And then here you are, Taurus, just fucking charging through it, right? You can set goals for yourself and know how you are going to get there. You know that the water is not too deep for you to navigate through. You know that any changes you need to make, you can do that for yourself, because you brought in that equilibrium and balance everywhere. You know, a huge part of that, like I said, is accepting your own goodness, accepting your own gold, not projecting it onto everybody else and thinking everybody else is so brilliant and I wish I could be confident like them, or I wish I could be this, or I wish I could be that. Like, I'll make up with it for it by being, you know, super thoughtful. You know, I'll take on all of the burden. You've dropped all of that burden because you don't need to fill that place in you now. You've done the most extraordinary work. And it's got you to this point where you are right now on June 29th, as I'm recording this. Might be you know, it might even be a week or so after that now, depending on when you pick this video up. Things are going to change, and they're going to change big time, Taurus. And I don't want you to be afraid about it. I don't want you to hold even the slightest fear about it, because you have proven your worth. You've discovered your worth for yourself. And now, no matter what comes along, you have the energy, you have the drive, you have the spiritual understanding of what's happening to you. And it doesn't destabilize you anymore. It's pretty profound. And so judgment to judgment is July for you. But it feels like August, things really might change direction. But anyway, I've been prattling on for quite a long time. How long have I been prattling on? 40 minutes? My God, I'm so sorry, Taurus. Right, so I am going to go over to Vimeo now, do the extended, and start pulling apart July and have a look and see if we can nail down some specifics about what's going on for you, because I realise that this is kind of quite a broad, overarching reading here. So if you're interested in that, the link is down in the description box. Feel free to come and join me over there. If not to worry at all. But this is brilliant. Like, I can, for the last 25 minutes, I've been having this rising sense of excitement that I can feel going on in here, and that's in anticipation of where this goes. Anyway, know that I love you all very, very much, and I will see you soon.